Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is Tata Steel round 3. We've had two very exciting rounds, and today everything seemed to calm down. Only 2 decisive results out of 7 games played, but they were very entertaining. So we're going to have a look at them right now. It is Matthias Blubom versus Vincent Keimer, the battle of the Germans. Of course, Matthias Blubom is a candidate. Vincent Keimer is not. So a very interesting battle there for us already. So we get c4 from Vincent, but it quickly transitions into this, which is a Queen's Gambit declined. We get knight to c3, knight to f6, and this exchange variation, which is known to be ever so slightly better for white. Bishop to g5, bishop to e7, now e3, h6, asking the bishop a question. It retreats back to h4, short castles, bishop to d3, rook to e8, knight to f3, c6, all very standard stuff. Bishop to g3, you're just anticipating the potential g5, the knight coming in, you don't want to trade, so you retreat back to g3. We now get bishop to g4, but because the bishop has moved, I can play queen b3 and target this. Now, you can maybe take this, play, go for this, and then play something like queen b6. And this is an idea for Matthias Blubom to go for this, and then of course trading is probably just bad for Vincent Keimer. Black has more than equalized this position, damaging the structure, having an open file. But what we get instead, bishop to g4 is queen b3, and the immediate queen b6. We now get knight to e5, the bishop drops back to e6, and we get f4. And you can see Vincent Keimer spent a considerable amount of time on f4, and then after knight to g4, in another bit of time plays f5, targeting the bishop, allows the trade, and then the bishop dropping back. And here what he's got to do is either play queen takes b6 or play the stunning bishop takes b8, which is almost never played. Instead, he plays a very passive move. He plays bishop to f4. Black has more than equalized this position. And after knight d7, he plays h3. And now, Matthias Blubom is better. He plays bishop h4 check. And I've got news for you. Not all of these king moves are the same. They're not all the same. The best one is king to f1. The next best is king to d2. To d2. Which is what we get. Second best choice, but it's now -1. Queen d8. Now g3. Bishop drops back. You would not think that black is better, but that is what the engine is telling us. And practically speaking, white has got some serious weaknesses. Their king's in the center. Black's king is safe. They just need to activate their pieces. Rook ac1. Now knight b6. g4. And c5. And now everything is breaking apart. We're threatening a fork. You have to take. But now bishop takes. And you have got lots of problems here. King c2 is an inaccuracy. It is now -2. We take. Bishop takes. Rook takes. Now rook c to e1. I take. And I play bishop d7. Black has coordinated all of their pieces. They're all coming in the game. And white just is running out of time. So queen b4. Now queen h4. You worried about the king, but no, I'm going for all of this. You have not guarded that, so now you have to play rook e3. And now I can play queen f2 check. You block with the rook, that's fine. I can go to g1. And rook e7 is a great move. It targets the bishop. It's perhaps threatening some infiltrations, but I can play rook c8. You have got nothing. King d2, I give you a check. Takes, rook takes, which hits the queen. Now you can take. My bishop is dead, but I go here. And Vincent Keimer resigns in this position. Just resigns. Matthias Blubom wins, simply because there's nothing you can do. If you play queen a8 check, I play king h7. Now you can play something like f6 maybe. I have like queen f2, and if you try to come back, I've got queen d4 check, and your king can't escape is the huge problem here. So let's say king c2, mating 1 with queen d1, because the knight is pinned. Just way too many pieces around white's king. And so we move on to the second decisive game of the day, and then we'll do a recap right at the end. It is Jordan van Foreest versus Anish Giri. Just like we had the battle of the Germans, we have the battle of the Dutch players. E4, and of course, Anish Giri is not going to play anything else other than his Sicilian defense. We get D6, we get D4, takes, knight F6, knight C3, and A6. And ladies and gentlemen, what do you think this is? The Najdorf variation of the Sicilian defense. There is nothing more Anish Giri than this. He's published a course on it. He's published several courses on the Sicilian, I think. A very famous course, I believe, in the Najdorf. Just unbelievable. The Najdorf is crazy because White has infinitely many moves here. You can just about do anything legal, and it's fine. You can play Rook G1. Basically anything that doesn't touch the king. You can probably play Rook B1. That's probably a move. There's Queen moves. There's Bishop moves. There's Knight moves. 15 playable moves here for White. So we get Bishop to E3. This is, I think, the main line or the most chosen move. Now E5. Knight drops back to B3. And what he's done is, because he's played E5, he has made D5 weak for the rest of the game. So this is a backwards pawn. And that is what White is going to look to control for the remainder of the game. But Black will get counterplay. And that's the thing. The Najdorf is very double-edged. So we get Bishop E7, F3, Bishop E6, Queen D2, H5 from Anish Giri. Still in preparation. Long castles. Knight BD7, King B1, Queen C7, A3. I'm waiting for when the players get out of prep. Rook C8. And now maybe Van Foreest spends some time, plays Rook to C1, Knight to C1. And Anish Giri is now finally out of prep. Move 13, he plays short castles. And this is the most typical Sicilian position you will get. Black has assembled all the forces on the C file. They've got a bit of, some interesting piece placement here with the bishops and the knights, but they can spring forward at any point. They've got, B5, B4 coming. Although it is weird that he's played H5. That seems to be a bit of a question mark, because this could be used as a hook with, moves like G4 in the future. Not right now. That square is well protected, but it could just be used as something and then the H file becoming open. So let's see how this game develops. We first play knight 1, A2, B5, and now knight to B4. This is how we're going to attempt to blockade everything, and we want to put something on that D5 square. So Queen B7, now knight C to D5, one capture, pawn capture. It's always interesting when you take this with the pawn, because what you do is you permanently freeze this one. We get this. You do kick the bishop out, so it's got to go like somewhere here and then maybe retreat. But this might be a better diagonal for it, just by the way. But when you take with the knight in this position, I'm still going to play this. And now you've got to play like queen takes d5, and Anish Giri could trade, but he can also play something like rook c6. And it's not worth having a piece there and not a pawn, because now I'm going to double, and Black is going to get some play. But it's something you can consider. Anyway, knight takes d5, pawn takes d5, bishop to f5, and now rook to g1. We don't chase the bishop away just yet. Knight to b8, and now g4. I mentioned this move earlier. Pawn takes, bishop drops back to g6, and now bishop to d3. You can slam the door. You can do this. It's not advised. You should probably take. And then queen takes d3, and now just play a5. And continue on your merry way this way. And that is exactly what happens. Knight to a2, and now b4. We push, but now queen a6. It's interesting. You would think Black would be happy to continue munching, but no. Queen trade's fine for me. So we get the queen trade. Knight to c1. Bishop to d8, and now knight to b3. Now in this position, just by the way, you can consider the move g5. You can also play, knight b3, but you can also play knight e2. White's got a very flexible position here, not to mention the huge advantage on time. Anish Giri, one of the best prepared grandmasters, is down to 33 minutes versus an hour and 17 for Jordan van Foreest. So we get knight to b3. Knight to b8, and what I think this speaks to is not necessarily the level of the players. I think it dictates that White has got the easier position to play, the easier moves to play. So, knight to d2, knight to d7, and now knight to e4, and that is your permanent problem. That's what taking with the pawn gave you the advantage of. This pawn can't move. It's a permanent problem. So you've got to play bishop e7 and just be passive. But now I can play g5. And you can go here. I take en passant. Knight takes. Looking to remove my knight. And I can just go here. And now I can use that pawn as an anchor for my knight to get in. And you will never remove it. So we have to go knight to e8. Knight to e6. And now rook f3. Bishop all the way to b6. It doesn't get attacked. Just by the way, attacking it makes no sense because you hang the pawn. So we get rook a8, and now rook to d3. Takes, takes. You would think, oh, but this is dreadful. You've damaged your pawn structure. Yeah, but I'm up 20 minutes on time, and what does black do? They can't move a piece. This is a problem. So your knight has to defend that. This is a problem. So your bishop has to defend that. This is a problem. So your rook has to defend that. White is the only one with free moves. It is level, according to the engine, but practically speaking, this is incredibly difficult to play. So rook to a6, bishop to e3. Rook a8 is a mistake, because now I play king a2. And you can play king f7, I play king b3. Rook here, that's fine. Rook g2. Bishop f6, rook f2. King g6, rook f3. And it's these little moves that Johan van Foreest uses to just get a better position, +3, the advantage swelling every move. And he's got his bonus time, he's got past move 40, he's still down 20 minutes on the clock. And now the king has come to c4. And bishop f6, the rook has got to h8, and you are running out of moves. Knight to c7, we lose, takes, takes, king goes back to b3, e4, final mistake from Anish Giri. Takes. Rook e7 was his main idea, but I can go here. Takes, I take here. Go down here, I take again. Takes, I can go to c4, you can go there, and I push to a5, grabs, bishop to c3, you can move over, king b3, rook g2, and now I push again. Bishop to g1, rook to d8, king slides over, I take here, and what I do is I put my king on c4. When you push the pawn, I give you a check. You go to f3, and I push the pawn. You cannot stop both of these. Yes, you have one runaway pawn. Yes, your bishop is trying to monitor from the best diagonal it can. You can't. Check. King d5. Bishop all the way to a7, but simply d7. And after rook g1, rook e1. Beautiful move. You cannot get there. You cannot stop this pawn. Anish Giri resigns the game. And the battle of the Dutch players was, it was Johan van Foreest picking up the victory. Now let's look at the standings. Firstly, it's all the results. As you can see, Matthias Bubom with the black pieces defeating Vincent Keimer. Johan van Foreest with the white pieces defeating Anish Giri. Everything else was a draw. So when we look at the standings for the Masters section, it looks like this. Hans Niemann leads with 2 points. Matthias Bubom now joins the lead with 2 points. Arjun Ergassi 2 points. But so is Johan van Foreest and Noordebek Abdusattorov. 5 players on 2 points out of 3. Then there are a whole lot of players on 1.5, namely world champion Gukesh Tamaraju, Yagizkan Erdokhmis, Arvind Chittarantabam, and Tadej Nigurin, and Vladimir Fedoseev, and Yakovar Sindarov, all the way down to 11. Then we've got 1 whole point for Vincent Keimer, who's on -1, Anish Giri, and Pragdananda Ramesh Babu, who did today get on the board. He was 0 out of 2 after 2 rounds. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you again for round 4.